have your attention, please? The event is about to begin. All right. Well, when I started Harvard Law School back in 1993, the first thing we had to do is not the first thing, one of the early things we had to do is we had to elect our section president. They're called section reps. We didn't get the title president. It was me and Damon who won that role. And when I say won, that's because we were the only two people in the section of 155 willing to do it. It was not a very tough election. I still have no idea why you did it. I did it as a favor to Bill Groening. So we were the section presidents responsible for dealing with the professors, bringing complaints to it, and we also wound up being, we were in the same dorm. I was on the 4th floor and Damon was on the 2nd floor, and so we became very good friends as a part of that role. He was really my best friend in law school, and we stayed friends all the years we were on. He made law review, I didn't, but we were both on the Journal of Law and Public Policy. I was the managing editor, Damon was the case comment editor. And I'll just tell you one brief story, because my girlfriend in law school wrote a cover letter and asked me to edit it. And I edited it, and it was just covered with red. And I thought, I'm just going to break up with it. So at dinner, I handed her the case comment I had written, with Damon in it. I just handed it to her, no comment. And she goes, what is this? I'm like, that's what it looks like when a good editor edits your work. Damon did that. Here's my edits on your papers. And I knew that she would understand if Damon had done it, that it made sense. So that's the end of law school, and I'll let Damon tell his story from there.
Thanks, bud. Hi. Thank you, Joseph. And actually, I ran for it. Can everybody hear me? I'm pretty sure I have a voice. So it comes in handy. I ran so that you would have backup. I didn't think you could go it alone. And I don't know. History might tell a different story. So I'm just going to get right into it. We learn more when things go wrong than when they go right. Now, this quote's from Starfleet Academy, Season 1, Episode 10. I'm kind of a nerd. That may or may not come out in the speech, but I don't care. However, there is something to this, and I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of a story about when I had something go very wrong. It's not probably what you think, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So on October 4th, 2025, I did a TED Talk at TEDx Jersey City. Who here saw it? Good. I was hoping it would be a low number. Today, you're going to get kind of an evolved version of that talk. And I say evolved because, well, now I have the benefit of having given that talk and the emotional roller coaster ride of the day of. So let's talk about that. And one of the things that they asked us to do, and my talk was called Believe in Second Chances, that they asked us to do on the dress rehearsal day was they wanted us to pick a walk-up song. And I'm like, I listen to electronic music, right? Like, I can't have my walk-up song be, so, the first song that came into my mind was Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. Does anybody know that song? All right, it's a really good song. I'm not sure exactly why I picked it. I have a pretty good idea why. They're from New Jersey. I live in New Jersey. My stepdaughter actually dated the bassist for a while, and I even have her gold record on my wall in my home office because she didn't want it, and go figure. And I said, well, you can't have it. It's mine now. I like where it is. So, but I really think I just kind of like the piano. It kind of hits me a certain way, and that's why I selected the song. Now, the weird thing is, when I walked up to the stage to give my talk, I don't remember hearing the song at all, right? And people confirmed for me that they played it. They said, no, they played it. And I attribute it to a similar phenomenon that I experienced when I raced at Ironman. That's something else I've done. I raced at Ironman Lake Placid in 2024. And one of the greatest things about doing an Ironman, especially your first one, other than that, oh my God, you just did an Ironman. It's 140.6 miles, right? The best thing about it is when you cross the finish line, the announcer yells, state your name here, or Damon Watson, you are an Ironman. And I really wanted to hear him say that. And I'm telling you, over the sound of my own crying, I didn't hear anything. Nothing, right? I had to watch it on YouTube the next day. But anyways, I digress. So back to the song. So hours before I walked onto the stage, I decided, possibly a bad idea, that I would actually just start listening to the song, to get myself kind of cranked up. And yeah, that's when things went horribly wrong. So I start listening to the song and the first verse, and that's fine. Second verse, I start crying. Weird, right? Third verse, I have colic now, right? I'm literally bawling, and I'm like, I need to get out of here, right? And so I start to get out, and my wife, who's here, she's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine, don't worry about it, right? And I just bolted. So I go and I just start doing laps around the building. Not running, that'd be crazy, but this was a little bit crazy. And I'm reciting my speech over and over in my head, and I don't know what's going on, right? I don't know what's wrong with me. And so let me walk you through the lyrics, and let me see if actually what I think might happen will happen, because every time I hear or even see these things, I start to cry. It's totally bizarre. So when I was a young boy, my father took me, I'm not going to sing them, I do not have an American Idol voice, to see a marching band. That's not the problematic phrase. Then I get to this. He said, son, when you grow up, there it is, would you be the savior of the broken, the beaten, and the damned? So you see, it's really crazy. I don't know why I do this to myself. But then the next one, he said, will you defeat them, your demons, and all the non-believers, the plans that they have made? And when that one hits, and I don't know if you can see it, every single time, I totally should be an actor, because I could literally make myself cry on command. And it's a really good thing that these days, vulnerable seems to be the new macho. So yeah, I left the building, right? I'm starting to do laps. I'm walking around the building. I'm trying to get this thing out of my head. I'm crying like a baby. All these emotions are being stirred up. Finally, one of our other good friends from law school, this guy Yellow Breen, who came all the way down from Maine to see this thing, shows up. He's like, hey, D-Man. I'm like, I need a minute, right? And it was embarrassing. But you know what? Seeing Yellow, I think, kind of pulled me out of it. And I went and I gave the talk, and I nailed it. And I didn't hear the walk-up song, so I didn't start crying. So what is the deal with this guy? I'm sure you're thinking he's like gets up there and made himself cry in front of us all. Well, I think that as I get into the talk, it will become clear exactly why that made me cry. So I think it's time I formally introduce myself, tell you a little bit about me, where I've been, and what I actually do. So my name is Damon Watson, and as you see, I'm a TEDx speaker, I'm an Ironman, I'm a Princeton alum. I graduated from the school formerly known as the Woodrow Wilson School. You know that I graduated Harvard Law School with Joseph. And I'm also the senior director of legal services for a nonprofit in New Jersey called New Jersey Reentry Corporation. Now, New Jersey Reentry Corporation is a nonprofit that was founded in 2014. And at the time, our stated mission was to remove employment barriers facing individuals that are returning to their communities after being incarcerated. Now, over time, that mission's grown a little bit. We actually serve veterans and people that are in addiction treatment now. But the way we do it has stayed mostly the same, at least until I got there. We do this by providing wraparound services through multiple different staff members. We have a social worker at every site, does a biopsychosocial and tries to connect them with social services. We have a case manager, just like typical case management duties, try to make sure that they're seeing all the right staff members that they need to see. We've got employment specialists who are key because they do resume prep, interview prep, clothing, getting them connected with job sites, interviews, the whole 9 yards. And then you have legal services, which it's a team of non-lawyers. And I'm a lawyer, but as you probably guess, I don't currently have a license, and there's reasons for that, but that will change at some point, hopefully in the very near future. But we basically, if New Jersey Reentry is like a construction company, and the other team members, they build things, like they'll build a new life for you, well, legal services, we're the demolitions crew that comes in and clears all the crap off the foundation so that the rest of the teams can build. And when I say crap, I mean things like municipal court warrants, municipal court fines, driver's license suspensions, full criminal records. We take care of a lot. So in the time since we were founded, New Jersey Reentry Corporation has touched the lives of almost 40,000 people, including mine. So let's talk about me, right? I'm the main character of the story. It's not narcissistic, it's just the way that it is. Deal with it. Now, I've already dropped a few bits about myself, right? Princeton, Harvard Law School, Ironman. But what I need you to do right now, before I get into the rest of my talk, is I need you to take a really good look at me. Like, just take all this in, and I'm going to start asking you, because this is the one audience participation part of this speech, because there's a prize involved, maybe two. And I already checked with the ethics guy. These prizes are fine, right? So I want to know what you see. And I'm not looking for like, oh, you look like a nerd, or you look like a dork, or you look like a square, which are all basically true. But that's not what I want to know. What I want you to do is look at me, and I want you to tell me, honestly, who you think would play me in a movie about me. And that's actually going to give me a lot more of a roadmap for some of the things I do in the speech than you think. And when I get the answer I like, I'll get a prize. So anybody, raise your hand. Like, who would play me in a movie about me? Michael Keaton, okay. So, Chief Judge. The funny thing about that answer is I think I told my wife earlier, if anybody says Stanley Tucci, they lose automatically. Didn't I say something like that? One of the people I work with told me there's some app that I've never heard of where like you post pictures of people and then post their celebrity doppelganger, and she told me Stanley Tucci. I'm like, I don't look like him. I don't look like him. And then I'm walking around in Dick's Sporting Goods the next day, and literally some guy walks up and says, hey, honey, look, it's Stanley Tucci. And I was like, but let's see what everybody else says, and maybe you're still in the running. But I did tell my wife previously that that's a disqualifier. So, anyone else? Rob Corddry. Okay, all right, I can see that. Who else?
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel. All right. I kind of like that answer. I like to think that he's a little monosyllabic for me, but, I can deal with it, but whatever. Okay, go on. Anyone else? Yes?
Jason Statham.
I have heard that before, too. I actually had a nightmare once that Jason Statham stole my watch. Don't ask. It's really... I'm like, Jason Statham, why are you taking my watch? And I kept saying his full name, but anyone else? No one else? Bruce Willis. Okay, so thank you. Anyone else before I'm going to close the floor? No, I've heard Bruce Willis before too. So here's the thing. I'm going to give two. I have to give it to Stanley Tucci, even though he's a disqualifier, but it's just too hilarious, right? But and I usually give the answer for the most hilarious, or the most ironic, or the most ludicrous. And I'm going to give it to Vin Diesel, but there's a reason for that, because actually, even though I don't think he looks a lot like me based on what I know about me, it's kind of the most accurate. I'll give you the prizes when I get to that part of the speech, and I know that the Chief Judge has to leave at some point, so I'll try to get to it before you do. But before I do any of that, I think now that I know what you see, or I know what you think you see, I think it's time to start talking about the things about me that I know you don't see, and that I'm pretty sure you can't see. So, I'm going to get right into it. Childhood trauma. This is something you almost never see, right? And apparently, I had a whole lot of it, enough to go around this whole room. So how did that happen? Like, here's my childhood trauma. My mom was very tenacious, very resilient. She was a school teacher, and then she was a paralegal, but she was also an extremely high-functioning alcoholic. Now, my father is one of the first, or was one of the first black men in the country to have both a law degree and a medical degree. And I know for certain he was the first one in California. And all of that is undeniably impressive, but he was also violent and abusive, and he was also a drug addict. So one of my earliest childhood memories is of a near fatal confrontation between my mother and father. I don't know how old I was exactly, 6, 7, something like that. I literally think I was 6, 7, but that just, it's so natural. And I heard some screaming, and my parents were separated at the time, and I heard a man's voice, and that was odd, right? Because there shouldn't be another man in the house. So I run down the hall, and I see something, it's seared into my memory. My mother was cowering on the floor, and she's already a very small woman. She's like 5'2", and so she's curled up in a ball, screaming, and my father was standing over her with a crazed look in his eye, where at 6, 7, I don't really have the tools or the frame of reference to understand what that was, but knowing what I know now, he was high off his gourd on cocaine, right? He was out of his mind. And over his head he was holding my 80-pound solid wood rocking horse, and he was going to drop it on her. No. So I run in front of them. Last time I told this story, I started crying in front of an entire conference at work, so I think I'm past it, so I'm good. But it's kind of hard to talk about. But he was going to drop it on her, and I said, no, right? So I run in between them, turning myself into a human shield, and I'm like, Dad, no, this Mom. And I don't know if he just had a moment of clarity or, if he started to come down or whatever, but he just paused, put the horse down, left the house, and drove away. And that was the last time that my father ever physically threatened my mother. But over the years before that happened, there was a lot of violence. He used to kick her, used to beat her, he left a lot of marks. There were a lot of police photographs. So, trauma, right? Next, depression and addiction. So despite my eventful childhood, I made my way through college, right, through law school. I started a career at Latham & Watkins, I'm from Los Angeles. It's one of the premier law firms in Los Angeles, one of the oldest, it and O'Melveny and Myers. I got married to a woman that I met when I was a first-year law student, Joseph knows her, and we had a couple of kids, and then things took a turn. They literally broke really bad. So over a period of about 5 years, I lost 6 family members. First, both my mother and my father. I lost 2 grandmothers. I lost a grandfather, and I lost an aunt. So what do you think happened? Depression, and then that led to addiction. First ecstasy, then cocaine, then crack, then meth. I sniffed it, I shot it, I did it any kind of way just to get it in there as efficiently and as quickly as possible. That obviously led to divorce. That led to custody loss, and ultimately job loss, and then to being homeless and incarcerated. This is where things get a little dicey. Because when you lose your family, you lose your kids, you lose your wife, you lose your dreams a little bit. You can go crazy, lose your mind, right? Am I crazy? Because of my obvious A-type personality, my crazy was epic. My fall was spectacular. I fell in this group that was doing meth and committing fraud type crimes. Some of them would go steal mail out of a blue mailbox. Any of you judges that have presided over criminal fraud trials might have heard some of these techniques, but they'll go into a mailbox with these weird contraptions that they build out of seat belts and this goo and a metal plate. They pull mail out of the blue box, find the checks that were being sent in to pay bills. They'd use these weird car chemicals that they get at auto shops and wash the checks, trace the signature, and then the ones that cleaned up well, like me, they'd enlist us to walk into banks, cash the checks, and that's how we made our money. And fraud, those kind of crimes, and meth addiction, they go hand in hand. I saw it all the time, right? That's what you do. If you're not on meth, you don't do those crimes. If you're on meth, yeah, you're walking into banks, right? And it was crazy. I typically made just enough money to stay in motels and to feed my addiction. But eventually, as always happens, because, hello, you're in meth, you're not actually, you're not getting away with as much as you think you are. Your meth is making you think you're doing that. But you get caught, and you get arrested, and then you go in and out and in and out until finally you catch a sentence of any kind of substance. Mine was for 9 months. That's what I served. 6 months of that, I was an inmate firefighter. But then I get out, and what's the problem? I have a criminal record now. I didn't have that before. So I need to get a job. It can't be a job as a lawyer. That's off the table. I don't even know if I had lost my license at that point, but eventually it was gone. I was on meth, right, and doing crime. So eventually that's got to go. So I get a bunch of jobs because I clean up okay. I interview okay. I'm still reasonably articulate when I'm not on drugs. But every single one of those job offers disappeared because the criminal record was in play. Now, California is a ban-the-box state. You all know what that means, right? Ban the box. It means that if you're a ban-the-box state and you apply for a job, the employer is not allowed to ask about your criminal record on the application or during the interview. At least that's how it works in California. Some states have nuances. But once they make the offer, the criminal record, it's fair game. It's on, which means it's off, right? So naturally, I recidivated. You don't usually see that used as a verb, right? I just take it. So yes, it's a verb. I recidivated. Now, the saddest part about my second crime wave is I really wasn't looking for it. I really, honestly wanted to start working and put my life back together. But my record made that kind of impossible. So here's how it happened. I'm just walking around on Skid Row. And yes, I lived on Skid Row. I was in transitional housing at the time. And some guy drives up in a Bentley. It's crazy. I'm like, what is Bentley? Yeah. So drives up in a Bentley. Says, hey, man, you clean up pretty well for down here. I'm like, thank you. And he goes, hey, come let me get at you for a minute. It was kind of creepy, right? I mean, weird. And I said, look, I'm not in any weird stuff, but I mean, it looked like I could probably take him, me, so clearly he didn't look that threatening. And so I heard him out, and he's like, look, I have this business, and I have a business partner, and I'm trying to get money out of the business, but he's creating a problem, but I think if I get it out, I can put it in an escrow company. The escrow company will cut a check in your name. You go cash the check, and I'll split it with you. And I'm like, you're not washing checks. You're not stealing stuff out of the mail. My lawyer brain wasn't really switched on at that point, right? But I was thinking, sounds less illegal than the stuff I was convicted of. All right, fine, I'm on, and I need money. But obviously, I got caught again. That's a whole other crazy story that we will get into, because the way that I got caught on this one, fascinating. But I experienced something a little different when I went to jail the second time. Probably my second honest-to-goodness experience with what I think could be divine intervention. Someone was looking out for me, and someone was moving the pieces on the board that wasn't me, right? So I'm sitting in jail, and I'm reading the newspaper, and I get to this article about former governor of New Jersey, Jim McGreevey, the late actor from The Wire, Michael K. Williams. Anyone ever watch that show? You remember Tyrone? Michael K. Williams. He and Governor McGreevey were doing a documentary through McGreevey's nonprofit, New Jersey Reentry Corporation, that helped folks coming out of jail get their lives back together. So I saw providence in this, right? Because I was still happy that I knew what words like providence meant. And after I was released, I found NJRC, got a job, then I got a better job. I joined a cycling club, I started dating, this one right here, and I remarried, and since August 25th, 2017, over 8 years ago, I've been sober and crime-free. The main character, thank you. There's a lot cooler stuff to clap for, I promise, but that is pretty cool. But the main character managed to do his own little Joseph Campbell hero's journey, but unfortunately, it's never that simple. So at this point, I feel a little compelled to answer some questions that some of you may have if you've been paying attention. And the first is, despite obvious visual evidence to the contrary, I'm black. I just look like this, right? Remember the whole thing about my dad being the first black man in California with a law degree and a medical degree. Now, this, me being black, became very important when I went to jail. And we're going to get into that too. But here's the thing. Basically, if you take a light-skinned man from Alabama and a Creole woman from Louisiana, well, you get what you get. Something that looks kind of like that, right? Now, the second thing you're probably thinking to yourself is, this sounds way too crazy to be real, right? Like, is he just some AI slop bot up there just like spewing this thing that, like, what was the prompt that somebody put in to generate all this nonsense? No, all of that happened and so much more. I literally was a depressed, addicted, homeless, disbarred felon. I walked into banks, I cashed checks, I did meth in that tent on Skid Row. Yes, I happened to take a picture of my tent with my Obama phone, and I managed to fish it out of my pictures. I was attacked multiple times down there. I had to fight for my life. They don't have a class at Princeton, and definitely not at Harvard Law School, on street brawling, right? That's not a skill that you leave the Ivy League with, but somehow I managed. I fought for my life, and I survived. But it was suboptimal. I mean, that's pretty euphemistic. The abyss between me and optimal literally mocked eternity. It was that bad. Now, it took a long time for me to share any of this with anybody. Obviously, right? I mean, I had a life full of potential, but now I've just got shame, embarrassment, and a lot of unrealized potential. But I told Jacob Brown, and if you don't know his name, you probably don't, but maybe look him up at some point. He has his own story, he's a speaker, and he's become a really good friend and a speaker mentor of mine. And when I told him basically everything you just heard, he's like, oh my God, your story, you could save people's lives. There's power in that. You need to get on it. You need to go speak. You need to do it right now. And he started to get me all worked up. I'm like, okay, I get it. So I landed the TEDx. That was the start. I've spoken to a lot of government agencies. I've spoken to the New Jersey Municipal Court Administrators Association. I've spoken to the New Jersey League of Municipalities Conference. Then I decided I would cross state lines, come up here, because I had an invitation to talk to all of you. And thank you very much for that. But if there's one thing that I really need you to take away from this story, it's that these second chance candidates, there's always things about them that you can't see or possibly know. You know, maybe this person who's before you in your court, I guess when you're at the trial level or even at appellate level, you know, maybe they were a witness to some atrocities at home. They were just a little boy and they couldn't save their mom, right? Maybe they were sex trafficked. Maybe they were sexually abused by their stepdad. Maybe they were born addicted to crack. Maybe they were jumped into a gang when they were 14. We don't know. That's important. And you should never forget that. Because with second chances, looks can be very deceiving. I mean, take me, right? I'm black, but I look super white, right? It's just is what it is. I went from Princeton to prison. Well, technically, I went from Princeton to county jail, but that doesn't sound cool, right? So Princeton to prison, the alliteration's there, you get it, right? So I also, Harvard to homeless, right? That happened. Those two words are accurate. And in point of fact, this picture, I don't have a lot of pictures from my graduation. I lost a lot of things at a storage. But this one survived. And I think you know this guy. So the funny thing about this, number one, if he's up for confirmation for anything, you never saw this, please. I need him to be successful. Don't need him to know that he associated with the likes of me. But two guys, same law school, two very different paths. Now mine led to the bottom. Anybody here ever feel like they're hit rock bottom? And be honest. Like you ever feel like I'm at rock bottom, right? Anyone know anyone that they think has probably gotten there? Here's the thing. If you're there, it's kind of like, you know, the Supreme Court test for pornography. You know it when you're there, right? And so I was there, pretty sure. And when you're at the bottom, you have a very important decision to make. And you actually do find yourself at a point where you're making that decision. You could stay down there, give up, throw in the towel, but you'll probably die. And if you do that, you never get to rewrite your story. You'll probably be forgotten. That's the part that got me. God damn. I didn't want my life to not mean anything, right? I wanted all of that. Why? Why am I so emotional? Why is my EQ like so ridiculously like calibrated? But again, vulnerability, new macho, right? Remember that. So I needed it to mean something, right? I dusted myself off. I got back up and I started on the long, very difficult path back to normal because I wanted to try to rescue a great life from anonymity, disappointment, and tragedy. But a lot of cool things happen along the way. I'm going to share them with you. So first, I went from state custody to 3 state championships. So I already mentioned Ironman, right? So I do triathlon. But those were in what's called aquabike, and if anybody does multisport, they know what that is. If you don't do multisport, you probably think it's like a bike with big floaty tires. No. Aquabike is triathlon with no running. And I'm 54, I'll be 55 this year, and a couple years ago I decided, I wonder how good I could be at this if I don't have to run and not destroy my knees, right? So my first time out, I won New Jersey in 2023. That was cool. Then I did Lake Placid. Then the next year, 2025, I won New Jersey again. So I literally am the king of New Jersey Aquabike. And I also won Pennsylvania. This year, because I kind of wanted to see, I wonder how many of these things I can collect, right? So I'm actually going to try Maine, Delaware, New York North, New York South, and next weekend, I'm actually going to go see if I can beat all those fools in Florida, right? So stay tuned on that one. After the state championships, something else cool happened. You already know about the Ironman, but I just wanted to try my new branding and also the title of my forthcoming book. It'll be out hopefully within a year. It'll be fun. But what do you think? Good? Corny? No? All right, yeah, all right. Yeah, you love it. Okay, fine. Now, just for kicks, I asked AI to to see if it could generate me something that hit a little harder. And it took it very literally, and it gave me something I could never use, but I am going to show it to you because it's ludicrous. That's nonsense. I love AI, but I so hate AI. I don't know what to do with it. Here's the thing about all of that. When you're in jail, and I'm sure most of you have never been locked up in jail, but when you're in jail, it's a weird feeling because you just were recently in the community, in the world, in society, but when you're there, you really feel like you've been thrown away. Like you've literally are a dumpster fire and have been thrown in a dumpster. You feel cut off from the country. You feel, and I did feel this, like you're not part of the country. And I love this country, right? I do. It's very important to me to feel like I was part of it, but something really cool happened, and I got to do something amazing. I actually, because I got so good at aquabike, I qualified for Team USA in aquabike, and just this week, I got my invitation letter from the Federación España de Triatlón to go to the World Championships in Spain this September. So instead of inmate orange, I get to wear Team USA red, white, and blue. And if you've never seen it up close, that's what redemption looks like. That's mine. You can clap, it's cool. So that brings me to the prize, all right? So for you, now the thing about this is these are priceless artifacts because you can't just buy them. This is a Team USA Triathlon running cap, and you honestly, when I say you can't buy them, like if you try, you'll get this message on the website, literally for Team USA athletes only. You can't buy this. We'll check it against your email. And you don't see it on there, but there's a footnote that says if you try to buy one, you won't get it, and we're going to come to your house and wreck up the place, right? So now for the chief judge, I have this is a Team USA cap for the world. This is our World Championships hat. They haven't happened yet, but if you wear that in September, it might bring me luck. So we'll see how I can do. So congratulations. Now, this is the part of my presentation where a lot of people in the audience probably start to think, all right, Nadir's just up there bragging now, you know? And I'm like, yeah, obviously, right? Like, I lived in a tent, okay? A tent! Like, I had nothing. Like, I know you hear stories about people who start with nothing. I had nothing except the tent and a used bike. And that's about it. And I had everything that was still up here. So, you know, going from that to representing the country at a world championship to Ironman, yeah, pretty cool. So I'm going to brag a little bit. But the braggadocio serves an important point. I also like using the word braggadocio and recidivated. But braggadocio serves an important point. There's nothing special about me, right? Nothing. I mean, I'm actually deeply flawed. I wear a glucose monitor because I was pre-diabetic. I've got like cholesterol issues. You know, I'm like just a regular guy with regular problems, but I did all this stuff. The key is there doesn't need to be anything special about you for you to do anything special. There doesn't have to be. I'm proof. And I know a lot of people that are proof. Like, I'm not the only one who just showed up and is getting to go to the World Championships, but just like was somebody regular before that. I showed this slide to one of my coworkers, and she said, "Oh, Damon, I just want your life sometimes." I said, "Okay, what's wrong with you? Go get it. It's literally right there, right?" I said, "My glucose is spiking right now, and I still did this stuff. You could do this stuff. The only ingredient that you need," and I know that this is going to sound like a platitude, but it is absolutely true, is you just have to believe in yourself. You can't ever stop doing that. Because if you stop believing in yourself, it's a wrap. Because then no one will believe in you. Why should they? You don't believe in yourself. But it invites people to believe in you. And when they start to believe in you, and when you start to have a surplus of others that are believing in you, that's fuel for whatever impossible thing you need to do. I was very lucky. A lot of people believed in me along the way. I'm gonna just talk about two of them. One, Howard Mann. You probably don't know his name. If you do know his name, that's pretty cool. But Howard was a solo practitioner in Rockland County, New York. He worked in New City. So I got a job at McGuire Woods as a senior paralegal in their white-collar criminal defense department, and then they had to run my record, and I told them that they would find stuff, and they said, well, you nailed the interviews, everybody loved you, it'll be fine, and this was to be a paralegal. So I had to humble myself a little bit to do that, right? I mean, I'm a lawyer, but I really wanted to work. So my record came back, and they called me up, they're like, yeah, the client that you're gonna do most of the work for, they don't want anyone with your background. And I literally said, even though they have that background, right? I said, well, all right, I get it. I mean, I can't blame them for that. And I knew that it might happen. So I went to Craigslist, just looking for any work I could do. And then Howard, I responded to his ad, and he calls me up. He's like, hey, why don't you come to New City, and and we'll talk about it. So I was living in Jersey City. I was at a sublet. I get on my bike. I rode to Journal Square, and then I go down to, if anyone knows the area at all, I went down to Hoboken, picked up a train there, took it to Nanuet, got off at Nanuet, got on my bike, rode to New City. This is how I was living. I didn't have a driver's license. Like, I literally was in the middle of doing my own reentry, which is what makes me so good at my job, because I know how hard it is. But I go to see Howard, and it turns out Howard does deep dives on people. Howard, before you could find us all on the internet, he was the master of the FOIA, right? He would FOIA anything and everyone. So obviously he knew everything about me. And I'm sitting down and I'm looking at him. He's like, all right, so this is this fraud, and you lived with Ted Cruz for a minute. That is on the internet. We're going to get to that later. And I'm like, yeah. But look, Howard, you seem like you have some really serious issues. Apparently, his father died, and his brothers-in-law were trying to raid the estate, and he needed some help. And I actually had gone through something similar when my mother died, and my stepfather was trying to raid her estate, and we rescued our house back from him. And so I empathized with his plight, and we talked about that, and he said, you know what, I believe you, and I believe that the person that's sitting in front of me isn't the one that did all those things. I'm going to give you a shot. And he paid me $700 a week, but it was a job, and I took it, and he believed in me. But here's the kicker. He believed in me so much that he held that job open for me even when I went to jail the second time after being extradited from right in front of his office. That was super crazy. So here's how that happened. You all know I was from California. My first bid was in LA County Jail. That escrow nonsense, remember I told you about that? So it turns out that was part of something big, like really big, that I had no way of knowing at the time, but doesn't matter. So I drive into work one day and I see that it's locked. Our secretary wasn't there yet. I know her car. So she unlocks the office. I drive next door to go put gas in my car. I get out of the car. Before the nozzle even hits the tank, I hear Damon Watson, and I'm like, holy shit. And I turn around, and there's like 8 state troopers in plain clothes, 4 cars. I don't know where they came from. I think they were in the trunk of my car. I mean, it was that quiet. It's like they all had EVs or something, right? I don't know. But this was like my nightmare, because my life was totally fixed. But all of a sudden, these guys pop out and they say, we have a warrant for your arrest from San Bernardino, California. The bail is $2 million. Oh, like a universal kick to the groin. $2 million. Why? Right? And then they said, the charges are conspiracy to commit real estate fraud. And then, because I wasn't on drugs and my life was fixed and I had a clear head, it all dawned on me. Damn it. I'm getting charged with a bunch of crap that a bunch of other people did that I've never met because of the conspiracy. I know how it works. I remember law school. I was not absent the day they taught conspiracy at law school. So they take me all the way back to California. I fight the case. I cooperate a little bit. I end up coming home in 11 months. But when I got back, Howard was there, and he gave me my job. That's belief. That's belief. My wife, Gigi, she believed in me too. And I gave her a lot of reasons not to. And I'm going to give you one of them. So we hadn't been dating super long, but long enough for her to feel emboldened to ask me the tough questions, right? So she actually says to me, hey, honey, can you tell me something about yourself that, nobody knows, something like shameful, something weird? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure you're ready for all that. And she just kind of goaded me. And anybody ever feel at any point in their life, and maybe that's not true now, and I hope it's not, but they were at a point in their life where they felt, I've never had an honest relationship. Has anyone ever been there? Somebody had to be at some point, right? I mean, we don't all have, our first relationship is never the most honest one, but I know I hadn't, right? And Gigi was giving me an opportunity to have my first fully honest relationship. So I emptied the tank on her, just to see what would happen. I'm like, okay, yeah, deaths of the family, depression, addiction, homeless, crimes, Skid Row, meth, tent, blah, blah, all of it, right? And she just kind of stared at me. She goes, is that it? And I was like, God, I love you so much. I'm very lucky. And I realized at that point, there's a lot of levels to this, right? And I've been on all of them. My book smarts may have been cultivated in ivory towers. This is my favorite arch at Princeton. But my empathy, the thing that really makes me who I am today, it was forged in fires and hellscapes on Skid Row and county jail. And when I was out there, I read and listened to people like Ed Milet. I don't know if you know that name, but one of his big things is he says, you're most qualified to help the person that you used to be. Yeah, that's like my life. Then I read David Goggins. I mean, I hope you all know who he is. But Goggins wrote in one of his books that when people, they leave prison pretty effed up because they're not rehabilitated in any meaningful way. And for them to heal, they need someone who's been through what they've been through. That's my life, right? I struggled with my own addiction, my own incarceration, my own reentry, and now I get to help thousands with theirs, right? I'm proof positive that you can come back from impossible nonsense. Meth? How many of you know about meth, right? Skid Row? You do not come back from that. But you can. I did. Because no matter how bad things get for you, no matter how hopeless things seem for you, no matter how dark the darkness is, and it gets dark, super dark, right? There's always a path back, always. But you have to recognize it, and you have to ask for the help. And a lot of people don't, because they view it as weakness, or there's shame there. But asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of intelligence. Absolutely. And once you get that second chance, and you unlock a different life, a great life, you have to keep earning it. So how do I do it? This is something that everyone in my program asks me, well, how do you do it? Well, every day I get up and I have to set the tone, and I have to do it every day. I don't waste time. I've done enough of that. I do hard things every day, and I stack them one on top of the other. I wake up and I ask myself, what impossible thing can I do today to make myself better? I try what other people won't, so that then I can do what other people can't. Who's done an Ironman? Yep. See? But you can, right? I did. You can. But you have to make yourself do those hard things. That's where the growth happens, right? If you don't get to extremity, you're not going to maximize your capacity. Next thing, my inner dialogue, is I embrace every gift that I have. That's the part I meant about wasting time. Don't. You have gifts, you have them for a reason. Use them. Finish what you start. Start now. Show gratitude. Produce excellence over perfection. This one is really important, right? Because perfection is one of those things that it's too hard to get there, so you're never going to get there, right? What do they say? It's the enemy of the good, or the very good, or the excellent. Produce excellence. We all can, because that's something you could do. If you keep shooting for perfect, good luck to you. Next, you have to find the good and the bad. Or, stated differently, you have to learn when things go wrong, right? There's good in every bad. I'm going to walk you through a little of mine. So take a look at this. Now, my wife took this picture, July 4th, 2018, and that's not how I saw myself when she was taking the picture. I was like, oh, I look all, and then I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't like the way I look. The board is submerged. Do you know how hard it is to submerge one of these boards, right? That's crazy. So I spent a year riding a bike, and then I ended up on that. Now, the bad thing is, shortly after that picture was taken, extradited back to California, back to jail. And when you go to jail, you think they'd give me a bike so that I could maintain that fitness? No, right? So I had to come up with something. So what'd I do? I ran. I had to. It's all I could do, right? I mean, you're in jail. So if you know the difference between jail and prison, in jail, it's just a detention facility, right? They don't have the kind of amenities you might have. Like, there's no weights, usually. There might not be an outdoor track. So I ran. I mean, I was literally Forrest Gump in jail. I just started running. Now, these are the shoes I finished Lake Placid in, right? Carbon plated, all kinds of cool stuff. These are the shoes that they issued me in San Bernardino County Jail. And I was running in those. It was pretty bad. So I called my wife. I'm like, honey, could you put money on my book so I can get the upgraded shoe, the Bob Barker W72 Clear Sole, so that I could maybe have, a little bit of a chance to run and not hurt myself. And for those of you that are wondering and don't know anything about jail, yes, it's the same Bob Barker. His company sells stuff to jails. Those blues that you saw, LA County Jail, they are called Barker Blues. Crazy, right? But even wearing the Barker shoes, blisters on my feet, tendons hurting, but I ran a lot. I mean, I've ran hundreds of miles. I mean, one day I'm pretty sure I ran about a half a marathon, and I was running in the dorm, in concrete yards. It was pretty awful, right? But this was the impossible thing I had to do to make myself better. And it helped me see the good in this bad. Because, look, if I don't go back to jail, right, I don't learn how to do my own calorie counter. That's another thing I had to do. MyFitnessPal? Anyone use that ever to count calories and track your food? Yeah, we don't have that in jail. So I had to come up with my own. A CO saw me doing this once. He literally was going to confiscate it because he thought I was up to something. And yeah, I can kind of see that now that I look at it. But I won't start running if I don't go back to jail because there wouldn't have been a need to. And then if I don't start running, I don't have Ironman. And that's so much of who I am now, that I was able to do that. If I don't have Ironman, I don't start doing aquabike. If I don't start doing aquabike, I don't win those state championships. If I don't win those state championships, I don't go to nationals and take 6th or rank 13th or any of that, and I don't get to be on Team USA. And the most important thing that doesn't happen if I don't go back to jail, I don't see that article about Jim McGreevy. And I don't find my calling at New Jersey Reentry. See, when you get released from jail, you write down the things that you have to do on a piece of paper or a manila envelope, whatever you have. So I wrote down mine, and as you could see, I was released during COVID. COVID happened while I was in jail. That's a whole other TED Talk, right? I could fill 2 TED Talks with everything that we dealt with when COVID started. But my proof of life picture to Gigi, wearing the mask, but the first thing, find COVID test, because we didn't even have that yet, right? But then the second thing, find New Jersey Reentry Corporation. None of that ever happens. Now, my life is really, really strange because it reads like a deal with the devil scenario, right? So here's the deal. You can go to 2 Ivy League schools, right? I'll send you to Princeton. You'll get into a selective major. I'll even let you graduate with honors, and you'll go to Harvard Law School. I'll even throw in Harvard Law Review. But for each of those degrees, you're going to have to do 10 months in county jail, and you're going to have to deal with a lot of other nonsense. So, in all candor, I don't know if I would have taken the deal if it was pitched to me at the time like that, because that all sounds pretty crazy and death-defying. But as I look back on it today, I don't have any regrets. I'm good with it. And while I do have a regret, I hurt people along the way, and that might be my only one. But other than that, every bad decision, every horrible catastrophe, every crime, every drug, all of it, it all led me literally to right here, sharing this with you guys and doing what I do. So I don't regret it. But I don't recommend it. Actually, I might have one other regret. Remember, I did say I lived with Ted Cruz for about 1.5 years. That was a whole thing. That quote's actually in Al Franken's book. It's pretty funny if you read it. So I'm sort of like Ted Cruz famous in a way, but whatever. So that might be a regret, but maybe not so much. But I did just want to show everybody this because it's hilarious. Now, I got off track a little bit. There is one directive that I finish with, and it might be the most important one because it's really what my whole new, I believe, is a great life is all about. It's not about trying to be better than anyone. It's not. It's about trying to make everyone better. Here's the cheat code to that. We're part of everyone, right? So when we do it for everyone, we're a part of that, and we stand to gain from it too. And that's basically what we do at New Jersey Reentry Corporation. At NJRC, we serve a singular purpose: to help our participants change their lives for the better. And one of the ways that we do that is through criminal record expungements, which I know that this room, they all know what that word means. I mean, you'd be surprised. A lot of times I go, do anyone know the word expungement? They don't really know. But New Jersey has a pro se expungement portal, which is fantastic. It's amazing. It serves everybody, right? You put in one complaint number or one criminal case number, it generates your whole party court history. And because they have a pro se portal, that enables me and my team of non-lawyers to sit down with our participants, just kind of bring them up at the system, walk them through it. And if there's no disqualifiers, like there are certain crimes that are not expungible: murder, robbery, sexual battery on a child, there's a list. And there's also waiting periods. If it's one felony, 5 years from when you max out, finish probation or finish parole. If it's multiple felonies, that goes up to 10 years. But if none of that's a problem, we just file the expungement. And the superior courts, they're good with us doing that, right? So there's no issue. And in the time that we've been doing it, since 2021 when the portal went live, we've done over 170 complete record wipes. That's a lot. That's basically the holy grail of what we do. Because if we're employment-based, if our main goal is to help people get work, what's the one thing that stands in the way of most ex-offenders getting a job? It's that criminal record. But why, right? For employers, it's cold, hard math. They just look at two candidates: Judge Ditkoff, Damon Watson. Judge Ditkoff, well, he hung out with Damon for a while. That's a judgment thing, but, you know, he's a judge. Damon's an ex-felon. Why would we hire the ex-felon? He might offend against the company. He might offend out there and embarrass us. He might do something stupid. Don't get it twisted. I get to talk to employers all the time in New Jersey, and I tell them all the same thing. I'm like, number one, I'm an ex-offender. They're like, oh, well, you? Yes, me. Number one. But number two, do you really think that just because somebody committed a crime in the past, interviews for a job at your company, and they somehow trick you into thinking that they're a good candidate, to the tune of you make them an offer, you check their references, those check out, but then you run their record, you find out that they bought marijuana, they committed check fraud, something small, and you disqualify them? That's nuts. Don't get it twisted. If they break the law and are convicted, losing the job that you gave them is literally the least of their worries. Why? They're going to go back to jail or prison. That's the thing that makes them a loyal employee. The Society for Human Resource Management actually did a study that proved this. But I don't need that study to prove it. All I need to do is tell you a couple jail stories, and you'll understand why we never want to go back to that. So, in LA County Jail, when you are sentenced, you process through Supermax. And yes, it's as gnarly as it sounds, right? So you process into Supermax. I call this the naked and afraid. There's a reason for that. You walk in, and you're in a giant room with a bunch of other sweaty, nervous men. The women go through something similar. And there's metal tables in like a horseshoe, and there's COs on that side of it, and they say, take your clothes off, put them on the table in front of you, bend over, pull your butt cheeks apart, and another CO comes up behind you and shines a flashlight up in there just to make sure you didn't keister any drugs or some other contraband, right? Now, I'm not really sure how long that happened. Got it. I'm not sure how long that took, but it might have only been 5 seconds, 10 seconds. But it felt like eternity. It was the most humiliating and demeaning thing I'd ever experienced. And I lived in a tent, okay? I used to push a cart around the city. I've done some things that are humiliating. This was the worst. That's the naked and afraid. Next, race politics, which starts with a racial draft. And it's not like the one on Chappelle, but it's actually not that dissimilar from it. And here's how that works. Remember, I'm black. This is important. So in California county jails, your entire social existence is dictated by your race. It's crazy. And it's all self-imposed by the inmates, and the officers just kind of, they don't mess with it. So when you finally get out of Supermax and you process down to a worker dorm or something else, you walk in and there's 4 men, different ethnicities. There's the Caucasian or white guys. They call themselves the Peckerwoods. Do not ask me why. I do not know. Then there's the African American. They are the brothers and others. The brothers because we're African American, and then the others because if you're Armenian or Asian or just something that isn't in one of these 4 buckets, you generally run with the blacks. Then there are 2 different Hispanics, one born in America who speaks English generally, and one born outside America who usually doesn't speak English. These are the homies or Southsiders. These, the ones from out of the country, are the paisas. So I walk in, that's what I see. And the white guy, the Peckerwood, again, don't ask me why they call it C, comes up to me. He's like, hey, brother, come here, let me show you your bunk and everything. Obviously, because look how I look. But then the brother and other looks at me and says, hold up, let me see your wristband. And I show it to him. And he says, Damon Watson. That sounds like a black name. I went, yeah. He goes, are you mixed? Yeah. He goes, Creole? I said, yeah, my mom. Daddy black? Yeah. He's with us. That was it. That was it. Like decades of race relations just stopped existing, right? It's weird. But then the race politics kick in. That's where things get really gnarly. Because race politics, they're just rules, right? Every race has them, and they're all different. It's not like there's one book that all the races use. Everyone's different. Ours had fewer rules than others, but all of the rule books, and there's not like a physical book, but all of the rule books featured disciplinary action. If you break one of the rules, you're DP'd or disciplined, and it's never pretty. And I'll give you one story. So I'm in the dorm, and this young white kid comes in, and he's nervous. He had that nervous energy. These guys come into jail, they've never been there before, and they're just trying to not have people dislike them, and he's hanging out with all the black guys, and he's just rapping and just dancing and having fun, and in the real world, it's fine. It's normal. But in there, that's not the way, right? So later that night, about 15 Woods stalked him to the back, and they stomped him out. He was screaming. I mean, I've never heard anyone beg for their life, but that's what he was doing. It was haunting. And then I didn't see him again. I think he went to medical, but it was absolutely the most brutal, violent, and horrible thing I'd ever seen up close. And I've been attacked, right? This was worse. So sometimes when I tell these stories to employers, and I ask them, do you really think that if you hire this guy, me, or anyone else with a record, that they're going to risk going back to all of that nonsense just to skim a little off the register? You're effing crazy. It's not going to happen like that. If you hire that guy, he's probably going to be one of the best hires you've ever made. He's maybe even going to win a Nonprofit Pro Professional of the Year award, or maybe a more modest Employee of the Month. Any of these things could be possible. You never know. Now, obviously I did those things. Now, here's the thing. I hope that now that you've heard this entire walk through my life, that a couple of things stand out for you. Come on. First, you should never do drugs, because if you're high and roaming the streets, you might get hit by a car. That's 9 staples right there. And don't ask me how I still had that photo, but yeah, cautionary tale, wrapped by some inspirational stuff, but don't do drugs. But also, I want to talk about expungement. So I know I've been up here parading around that I have this criminal record, no, woe is me, but in California it's a little different than it is in New Jersey. We had to hire some lawyers. They got on it. And in California, you have to file in every case or every court where you have felonies. 2 LA Superior Courts, 1 San Bernardino Court. Last year, before my TEDx, court number 1 said, cool, done. Those felonies are gone. Last month, court number 2, cool, those felonies gone, you're rehabilitated. Later this month, San Bernardino is going to hear the case. Prosecutors already said that they're not going to object. So unless a meteor hits, I'll be felony free by the end of the month. So then I can get my license. Now, at this point, two things should be totally clear. One, a lot of things went wrong in my life, and I learned a lot when they did. And two, I'm thinking maybe you could understand why that makes me cry. Because this, I think I kind of did that. And this, I think I kind of did that too. So, for everyone that's left, if anybody comes to you, whether it's someone in your courtroom, it's a party, or just somebody in the real world, and they've got a record, or they're addicted, or whatever, and they come to you looking for a job, or help, or just want to be heard, how many of you think that you can maybe keep an open mind about giving that person a chance? If you don't raise your hand, I'm going to find you. No. Well, then I think my work is done here. So thank you for listening. Joseph asked me to leave some time. Well, it's 2. If you want to go, you can go. I forgot to tell people at 2, it's 2:05. But if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So, okay. Thank you. Huh? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
One quick question. Do you currently have a relationship with your children today?
I always get that. Remember I told you? So, thank you for that. Yes, no. So, I have 2, a son and a daughter. And when my son turned 17 and a half, he reached out to me, which was great. But I talked to my stepmother. I said, hey, Robin, she wedged herself in my kids' lives for me, and she has been in their life since everything went belly up. And I said, I need you to call Lee because he reached out to me, and he's not 18, and I don't want to trip his mom up. So she talked to him and said, hey, did you call your dad? He goes, yeah, but you know what? Let's wait till I'm in college, and because he was going to college that year. Ever since he turned 18, we've talked multiple times every single week. I went down to South Carolina. We rode in a bike race together, a 50-mile race. We're great friends. And so that is the yes. The no is my daughter was a lot younger when things went bad. So she doesn't really have any memories of me. He did. And I think that she's had a lot of input from my ex-wife and her mom, and that's fine. But my son and she are very close, and so he's working on that. So that'll happen. But thank you for asking. I get that question like almost every time. So, sure. Yeah. Yes.
Right there with you with the alcoholic marriage, and like trying to home and wanting to believe in second chances. But we do see people here in your group all the time that aren't dissuaded. I mean, just yesterday, the Supreme Judicial Court issued a decision with some kid who got, he was charged as a young offender, and he served his, and we don't call it serving, he was in the Department of Youth Services, but he had a split sentence with the, I think 5 years hanging over him in adult prison.
Jeez.
And he did what he did, and the judge imposed that 5 years. Dude, so we see people who do go back, or will go with, go with my mom. I mean, she went back to my dad, I don't know, probably 100 times. I stopped moving out. So she moved out and then moved back in. I was like, well, I'm just going to save time and just stay here. So I want to believe you, and I don't want to be this.
Which part are you?
I believe in second chances, but it's how do you tell that person is ready to turn the corner?
They're not always. They're not always. But here's the thing: you need reentry help. My understanding is it's not super awesome in Massachusetts because without reentry help, the only reason I was able to do my own reentry is because of the tools I already had. But there are people that come into my program and they're there voluntarily. They are ready because they made the choice to get help, even though they don't present as ready. And what I mean by that is there are folks in my program that are there to get help, but then when I tell them, I don't know if I can get these fines waived in this municipal court because you don't have enough time served. One of the things I do in municipal court is I write letters to get them to run old fines concurrent with new sentences so that they can just wipe them out and they can move forward. And they'll say things to me like, oh no, man, if I can't get that waived, I'm just gonna have to go back and sell dope. So some of them are still there, but they have me. right? Or they have our social worker, Angela, or they have our facility director, Dwayne. That's a key part. And that's like, when I did my Second Chances speech in TEDx, I was like, look, you have to ask for the help. Like you can't just go and think a second chance is going to fall into your lap. You need to go find the help, but the help has to help, right? And so without that, a lot of this doesn't work, right? In California, there isn't really that kind of focused reentry in any one program. There's one called Homeboy Industries, but they were like more gang focused. They weren't really available to me when I was out there. I had to do it all on my own, but that was hard, right? So I say they might be more ready than you think, but I think they might need more help than they're getting. So.
How did you meet your wife and after you had that conversation where you were really honest with her?
How did I meet my wife?
Yeah.
That's a good story. So I was subletting in this apartment in Jersey City with a woman who's a great friend of ours now. And that woman, can I tell that, I won't give all the details, is it okay? I mean, so that woman only knows Gigi because they were both dating the same guy and didn't know it because he's this, fantastic narcissist that manages to like he was juggling a million women. But Kate figured it out, email bombs Gigi, but they become friends. They become like a support group for each other. So one Christmas, while I'm living there, and I finally start dating again. Like that's the thing. When you know that your reentry is in good shape if you feel like you have something to offer again and can start dating. And then so I was at that point, and I was dating, and I came home from a date, and Kate was drunk and walking her dog, and hey, how's it going? And Gigi's in the guest room, which I thought was my room, and I hadn't met Gigi, but there was another room that I didn't know about. And so the next morning, I'm sitting there just eating cereal, and this glowing, beautiful woman just walks into the kitchen a little hungover, and and we just start talking, and honestly, the chemistry was immediate. And so fast forward a couple weeks, apparently, and I didn't know this, like I was hoping we would just see each other again, but I just kept dating other people. Gigi offhandedly mentioned to Kate, I would date Damon. And then Kate says to me, Gigi wants to date you. I'm like, really? So I go look her up on Facebook. Kate had two friends named Gigi. I figured out the right one, thankfully. I Facebook messaged her, she messaged back, and we've kind of been together ever since. So we met in real life, and it was nice. So, yep.
You said you're working on getting your law license back. When that happens, what's next?
Don't know. I mean, here's the thing with the law license. Like I've started to also do public speaking, and I might not need my license to do anything I want to do in my life, but it was hard to get, right? And I had two. I went in California, one in South Carolina. South Carolina bar is actually harder than the California bar, but the pass rate's a lot higher. But the subject matter was like, what? It's ridiculous. But the curve is crazy. So they pass like 90%. California was like 58 or something when I took it. So I kind of do want to get at least, I don't need either of those. I'll have to sit for the UBE anyway, I think, like no matter what, because of what my past is. But when the public speaking thing takes off to the point where I have more free time, yeah, I'll take a bar class, I'll take the UBE, and I'll try to go get Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey. But I don't know what I'll do with it. I might just want to have it because, I want them back. They're mine, and they were taken from me. So, yeah.
Non-personal question. Sounds like first.
They're all personal questions.
You actually made it legal in terms of legal stuff. First choice sounds like expungement, but that takes time. That it's not available to everybody.
Are you talking about people in my program in New Jersey or just in general?
People are for reentry.
Okay.
With criminal records, like you sound like you're very proud of 170 expungements.
Super proud of 170.
Yeah, so because that gives them a clean record. But so second choice is ban the box any good or?
No, it's stupid. Ban the box is toothless and idiotic. I mean, like, all it does is it's like Tartarus, right? Y'all know that, like Tartarus, where it's like that Greek purgatory where the fruit's right there, but you could never quite reach it. That's what ban the box is. I mean, that's what it was for me. I went through this whole deal. Like, I called up one of my friends who was a partner at Latham in New York that I knew when he was at Latham in LA. I told him my whole deal. He's like, look, one of our partners is at McGuire Woods. Did all the things that would normally get you a job. But then they ran the record and it was out. And that usually, when that record comes back, you're going to lose the job. And so it's, no, ban the box is toothless. So Gavin Newsom was flirting with a bill that I think would do automatic expungement for certain nonviolent things, and I think that that's absolutely necessary. Like, my crimes are stupid. Like, my crimes are literally idiotic. You know, I mean, just washing checks and doing, just doing nonsense. And it's nonviolent, and, like, I think even the restitution was, like, some of it was even paid, like, somehow. I don't remember, or they waived it. But I think at some point that just needs to go away, right? I mean, we had to spend, like, tens of thousands of dollars to lawyers to make it go away. Like, I had a warrant, an FTA warrant from 2009 that blocked my ability to file. And I wrote a letter similar to the one that I wrote for anyone in my program out in California, in Orange County. Hi, I do this. These are my circumstances. This is how they've changed. This warrant is old. I can't file my expungement. Can you just get rid of it? No, you need to come post bail. So, so we hired lawyers and they went and handled it. That got expunged, and now, the expungements are happening. But yeah, it's not always available, and I think it's dumb. I think it's really nonsense. And so, we every now and then we do lobbying at New Jersey Reentry. Like, we recently got a Survivors Justice Act passed, which it creates mitigating factors for anybody that committed an act, that's been convicted of a crime, but their victim was someone who perpetrated violence against them. It also opened up expungements for people that are currently incarcerated, and also appeals. And all. It's great. So one of the things on our radar is something more aggressive with expungement. I think 10 years is crazy. 10 years is a really long time to wait. Mine, if I had to wait 10 years from when I finished probation, 2032. That's nuts. So it's imperfect, right? But it's not available for everybody. So we have a relationship with background-friendly employers at Reentry. I don't know if anyone's heard of Sansone Auto. I think they're mostly in New Jersey, but you have? Okay, so they hire felons, and they hire a lot from our program. And so we have relationships with a lot of different companies like that are willing to, give people a second chance because they've come through our program. So I think I answered your question. So, okay. It was a little personal. So. Anyone else? Yep. Have I? It's a funny question. It's funny, it'll be funny. So, way back when I got divorced, or when my wife divorced me, I went to outpatient and I went to NA and I did all that. And but then when she pulled the plug on, Joseph knows the whole story. I won't go into the details, but basically when the whole custody thing happened, she got remarried, adopted the kids, and there's a law in South Carolina that if you leave the state for too long without coming back to South Carolina, they can go in ex parte and terminate your rights and adopt the kids. And so they did all this stuff ex parte, and then that kind of sent me off into. But my recovery is not normal. And way back in my DUI in Orange County in 2009, yeah, they ordered some, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I just never did it, right? And so I've actually, and all of my crimes that I did all this time for, none of them were drug crimes. They're all just fraud. So I've never been convicted of any drug crime, so there was never any court-ordered anything. But I don't go to meetings, and I'm not saying that they're not good, they're not helpful. I mean, everybody's recovery is different. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. I think my recovery is just helping as many people as I can, right? And also just doing all the hard stuff, which helps me help people because it gives them sort of a beacon of what might be possible, despite the fact that their life has been horrible for a while. But no, I didn't. There wasn't any, and I never did any. But like I said, I don't have cravings. I don't have using. I think my addiction was different. It solved a different problem. Mine was just I needed to not feel crappy, and now I don't, and my life is great, and so I don't need that stuff. So. I mean, I hope, does that answer your, I feel like I punted, but, yeah, no, because there weren't any drug crimes. That's the thing. It's if there were, there probably would have been, because in California we do the diversion court and the drug court and all that stuff that we do in New Jersey, and you probably have here, right? So, but yeah, that never was a factor. It was all fraud and identity theft and meth-related stuff, but without the meth. So, yeah. He might need to answer that. Or the answer is somebody find me some funding and I'll come and I'll start the nonprofit that can do it because now I know the blueprint. But but I think Joseph might be better to answer that because you educated me a little bit about your reentry here, so I don't really know. Because my superpower is kind of extended the borders of New Jersey, and then outside of that, I don't really.
Okay, but, so there's nothing here, so you would have to.
Not that I know of. Like if it were like, so I know New Jersey, and I know the nonprofits in New York, and I know some of the ones in Pennsylvania. Like there's a great one in New York called Fortune Society. But if there is one, like look, if you have someone that you're trying to help, come and get my card from me, send me an email, I'll find it. Like, I mean, I actually had an intern do this once. She cataloged all of the top 2 or 3 ranch-free nonprofits in all the 50 states. So, so I do. So there's a guy on Instagram that I've met, his name is Damon West, and I introduced myself to him after reading his book, said, hey, Damon W., who's done time, I'm a Damon W., and I've done time. And he's like, that's wild. And so we're like Instagram friends now, but he was convicted of 65 years for this all kinds of like racketeering and corrupt like burglaries in Texas, and it was all meth related, which is the funny thing. And he got out in 7 on parole. His mission, he goes and speaks in prisons all the time. And he was on lifetime parole, and he finally cut a deal so that he could go into federal prisons now too. If you follow him on Instagram, Damon West, I think it's like Damon West 7 or something, he's in prisons all the time. And there are others that are in prisons all the time. I'm still sort of new, right? But I have the same message. I'm gonna get in there. I mean, first and foremost, I wanna go back and talk to the guys. Like I was an inmate firefighter, right? I mentioned that, right? Actually, just because it's hilarious, that we had fun, right? So these are all guys I knew that were inmate firefighters. But yeah, I wanna go back to, that was Holton camp in Sylmar, California. I wanna go back and talk to those guys. And I wanna go back and talk to all the fire camps, right? I want them just so that they could see, look, I mean, I was you, and this is where I am now. And so if you're here and you feel like, what am I gonna do when I get out or whatever, like there's plenty of things you can do in your life that don't care that you have a record and actually that probably like it that you do, right? Like one of the things I do with triathlon, I'm a USA Triathlon Foundation ambassador, and I had to like write a little essay and do stuff, but I wrote about all this nonsense. Right? They know, like I said, yeah, I used to do all this dirtbaggy stuff, but now I have this different life, and they're like, well, we want you. And so I want to go and tell these guys stuff like that. So people do that. I'm going to go do that. We just gotta get there. So, and if you, like I said, if you come get my card, I can maybe help you find. Okay. So. Now, I will say this, the legal services stuff that we do, I've looked, we're one of the only ones in the country that does anything like pro se expungements, because the New Jersey portal like makes it possible, or municipal court triage, or warrant recalls, or we get people's driver's licenses out of suspension. Like there's a whole lot that we do in legal that a lot of other nonprofits just don't do. But that might change, so yes.
Did doing that help you at all?
Doing what, fire camp?
Firefighting?
Absolutely. I mean, so one of my things now, I get up every day at 3 a.m. during the week. I got up at like 4:30 today because, I didn't have to go to work. But I get up at 3 a.m. every day, and I get my training in the morning because it's a priority for me before I go to work. But all of that habit, that really started there. I mean, fire camp's a paramilitary thing. I mean, you're firefighters, right? And so, you wake up at the crack of dawn and you're out and you're doing stretches. And so it kind of gave me a framework for all of the impossible multi-sport things that I do now. I mean, and it honestly started there. So yeah, it gave me a lot. Also, I'm pretty good at swinging a tool. Right? Like if you need someone to take an axe and chop up a tree or whatever, I could do that. But yeah, it gave me a lot. And when I was there, one of the things we got to do, we would sometimes leave and go into the city, and there was like a storm that knocked out a bunch of trees at the Universal Amphitheater. And we went there, got out, and our sawyers chopped up the trees and we bucked up the trees. So it's like we got to actually be out in the world. And so when you're in California or anywhere that has an inmate firefighting program, I mean, it's a highly sought after thing. There have been articles written like, oh, they don't get paid enough, or oh, these poor them. Everybody that was there wanted to be there in the worst way. Time off your sentence, purpose, meaningful work, routine. You know, your days fly by, like you're not sitting in a day room all day. I mean, but it literally gave me the structure that I now use to do my whole thing. You know, and if you follow my Instagram, you'll see it. I post stuff in the pool at 5 in the morning so that my team can see it, but other people pick it up too. So, you know. Anyone else? Okay, thanks for having me. Cool? All right. Sorry, I forgot to excuse everyone at 3. My bad. So it's fine?